the common denominator is this, is I don't even want to say do what I tell you to do, but the little things of, I don't ask that a lot of people do a lot of things, but the majority of the ones that will know their numbers, and that sounds so broad, but I mean, knowing what their revenue is minus expenses equals the bottom line. There are just so few people that they just want they must love the grind or the game and forget to watch and see their numbers and their expenses. And it's not watching just their expenses, but it's also watching the top line. So number one is to know in the numbers, and all that means is to audit, see where you're at on a monthly basis.
Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast. I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I've got my mentor, my coach, but more importantly, my really good friend, Kelli Garrett. Thanks for joining me, Kelli.
Of course, Jason. Anytime.
Yeah, I've been excited about this one. You're probably the most referenced person on this podcast. We've got about 150 episodes, and anytime the topic of coaching and mentorship and just generosity and entrepreneurship, I can always tie something back to you. And you've had a major influence on everything that I'm doing, me and Bill were doing, Bill and Tim were doing, and you're a big piece of all that. So I appreciate it. And I'm excited.
I'd be honored more for that. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah. Well, before we get kicked off and I introduce Kelli, I do every episode. My son JJ gives me a joke to tell. So here's his JJ.
Okay, bring it.
So what do you get when you cross a snowman with a dog? Frostbite.
Okay, JJ.
That's JJ's joke.
That kid's something else, isn't he?
I had Emma on the podcast. She actually sat down and I got to interview her. He doesn't have the attention span for that. He wanted to contribute in some way, so every week he gives me a couple jokes to tell, so it's pretty fun.
I love to watch your social media with him on there. I tell you what, that boy's something else.
He's a trip. Kelli Garrett, Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
We met through a mastermind legacy family run by Tim Brotz, good friend of both of ours. And we met several years ago, I probably 3 or 4 years ago now, but one thing that before I even was introduced to you and had a conversation with you, the thing that stood out is just how much you were admired in those rooms. Like, you walk into the room and everybody wanted a piece of Kelli Garrett. You know, it was you, and you had that persona and that just glow about you, but you also had the humility that went with it that just attracted me to you. So once I got to meet you, and I just kind of want to give a little bit of a history of how you and I came together. But Bill and I were doing some private lending with our own capital, and we were all in on building our portfolio at that time. So continuing to buy apartments and rentals and things like that, but got very interested in the hard money lending space, particularly what you were doing over at Rehab Wallet. So you were nice enough to sit down and have a phone call with us, about a 30-minute phone call. And immediately within 2 minutes of that call, you exposed everything about yourself that I thought, which was your generosity. Like, we're all in this together. We win together. And you were supporting the idea that we were thinking we might be interested in. We got off that phone call, and Bill and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were in my truck because we had to drive to get to a point we had cell service to have that. And I remember hanging up and Bill and I looking at each other kind of in silence for a few seconds. And it was, I don't know which one said it, was like, it's like, we're doing this. We're going to try this and we're going to make an effort of it. And our next phone call is to see if Kelli will be a consultant and help us build this thing. And fast forward a few more phone calls, and we formalized like a consultation, coaching, mentorship agreement. And for the first year we were in business, you held our hand every step of the way. So for those that don't know, most of you do that are listening, but Kelli Garrett runs Rehab Wallet out of Charleston, South Carolina. They are essentially our crystal ball. Like, everything you guys are you gave us our vision, you gave us a roadmap to get there, and you did so with such an abundance mindset, because essentially you were helping build a competitor to what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never want, I asked you about that early on, and you were like, no, there's enough cake for us all. There's enough sunshine for us all. And we love that about you. And you've never wavered from that. You've stuck by our side and helped us get to where we're growing now. So with that, I want to turn it over to you, Kelli, and let you kind of more formally introduce yourself and who you are, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for those kind words. Our reputation is all we have, and in my opinion. And so I try to walk the walk, and don't always do a great job of it, but I try. So yeah, the deal about Rehab Wallet, or the deal about me, is that, nowadays it's Rehab Wallet, but there's been almost 30 years prior to Rehab Wallet. And, I've done everything that there is to be done, I think, inside real estate. Flipped for almost 18 years. I was in the mortgage business early on from 2000, about 2009. And, the mortgage business back then, right after I left corporate America, let me go back. Right after I left corporate America in 2000, I met a couple, just weirdly at an insurance place, and started talking to them, and they started telling me what they do, and they own a mortgage company. And so I just got interested, and through the mortgage world, conventional side, I ended up learning how to flip, because I was thinking, gosh, if that guy can do that, I can do this. And my dad had some real estate around our small town. And so I learned just through education, and that if we can fund it, I can buy it. And so I started buying a bunch of real estate, flipped a bunch, sold a bunch, kept a lot. And in 2018, I kind of made a switch. I was getting a little older, and I thought, I'm going to do real estate more passively and run a business. I've always had some type of business. It was a mortgage business. I was in the convenience store business for about 8 years at the same time. Like, I've always had some type of business on the side, and that is my income. A lot of people talk about that fast money. That was my fast money, because that's my distributions. And I offset it with real estate as a depreciation model. I didn't really pull that much from real estate back in the day. I just let it just continue to have momentum. And in 2018, I sold almost all my individual houses that I had. I probably had about 300 units at the time, individual houses, small multifamily, little trailer park of 32 pads. I sold everything in 2018, and I'd had them for almost 20 years. So I sold them off and created 2 buckets of money. One bucket was that I was going to lend out of, because I knew about the mortgage business, because I'd had prior mortgage experience. And the other bucket, I was going to do learned about this new syndication world, and I was going to be more passive with my bucket of money on that side. And so nowadays, I'm more passive on real estate. My active income comes from my business, which happens to be Rehab Wallet. I've always tell myself that I am an entrepreneur that owns a lending company. A lot of people are true lenders. I love the business, don't get me wrong, but the widget has never aligned. Like I said, I've had from convenience stores to appraisal company to mortgage business to everything you can possibly think of. I've always had probably 8 different businesses this is my 8th that I have started or built or bought and have sold. And so now we're on Rehab Wallet and a few other lending companies inside the lending arm. I just saw years ago that everybody was seeing me as a lender, and so I just leaned in on it. And so that private lending piece turned into Rehab Wallet in 2020. And we use a debt fund just like you guys. We raise our own capital. So I have an amazing 2 partners that raise capital. And my job was to build out the team and lend it out. And that's what we've done.
Yeah. And well, I'm going to come back to the point I was getting ready to make. But I want to go back, because you initially, if I remember correctly, you kind of cut your teeth in the corporate world a little bit, didn't you? Didn't you work for UPS or FedEx, one of those?
I did. Okay. UPS for 12 years. Right after college, I was in, I went in the corporate world, started out loading just like everybody else at UPS starts out. I don't care if you're a board of directors at UPS. They all started out inside on the front line. And so I loaded for, about a year. I drove for about 2 years. And then I went straight into management and UPS, the UPS world and my culture of who I am, it just fits. It's, 100% utilized is not good enough. You have to run 125% utilization. And it kind of just fit my world, very rigid, very chain of command, almost military-ish. And it kind of fit how I was raised by my dad. And then I went into sports, which is very, rigid communication, very hierarchical. And so chain of command is very important. And so it just kind of fell in line and continued just to kind of sharpen my iron. UPS was great for a young person to come into and manage union employees, which are not easy to do. And I was over hundreds at any given time. When I left, I was probably over 1,000 different drivers, and had a big group underneath me. So I learned how to manage people, the hard way, I guess. But I just kind of, if it ain't hard, it ain't my life. So that's just kind of how I've kind of come up.
So yeah, and I make that point because like myself and Bill, I owe a lot, almost everything that is good in me as an entrepreneur. I cut my teeth in that corporate world, right? Working for a company and learning the good, the bad, the ugly of everything within inside of a corporation. But I learned leadership more than anything else. I think you alluded to that just then. Had I been, and I'm curious to know your take on this, if I had jumped into entrepreneurship right out of college, now my nature, I would have figured things out, but it would have been a more of a grueling process. Do you think that would have been similar with you? I mean, did that corporate experience kind of, I don't know, expedite things as an entrepreneur when you finally went that route?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
When things pop up as an entrepreneur, it doesn't, it's not escalated. It's not all that big of a problem because you've already been through decades or a decade or more of problems. Like, I always said in management at UPS, we just fight fires all day long, and we did. People and fires, people performance are the big key elements there. And so dealing with people, I can remember, having our first fire at one of our properties and people around me were just like, TV's there, everybody's there. What are you going to do? And I'm like, there ain't nothing to this, we'll figure that out. We got good insurance. We'll figure it. Nothing seems too big anymore. But had I not had that experience, I think I would have thought it was a bigger problem than really it is.
Yeah.
Because reps in this world are very important.
And back to you growing up playing sports, and we'll get into more detail about that in a little bit, but you learn it through sports too. Reps, the more you do something over and over, the more you do hard stuff, that calibrates your mind to do hard stuff, right? And, and that you get to a point where, like, there's a book with this title, but everything is figure outable. Like, it truly is. There's not a problem you can be faced with. Now, there are some serious problems. I mean, you could, a loss of a loved one or, something unexpected happening that could really shake your world up, but everything is figure outable. You can get through adversity. And I think like that I don't know that you're born with that or you're not. That's something that has to be shaped over time and experience, and you've lived a life of it. So yeah, I think that is, I think that's a good takeaway for anybody here, like that expects to be able to figure all these things out right out of the gate. No, you got to get your teeth kicked in some to get used to getting your teeth kicked in, right?
That's right. And you don't know until you've been through it. And like you said, there's only a few things that's not fixable.
Right.
And you said, in 2010, I felt like I was going through like a 202 class of like life. Heck, it might be the highest class, a master's class or a doctorate, actually. My dad was dying, and he died that year. I was getting sued by some partners. The real estate market was crashing all around me. So you learn how to deal with life. And the only thing really that wasn't figure outable was that death. Everything else figured itself out. Right. So I think you got to go through that to learn how to handle those kind of things. And then as a leader, we have to, and I want to talk a little bit about this at our event we get ready to go to together, is that all our jobs really as leaders is to build a culture and to cast a vision for our team. Yep. Other than that, we probably need to just get out the way. But building that culture of confidence, even when you have no clue how it's going to get fixed, it's fixable. It's figure outable. We just gotta set the culture, and our people around are just watching us, how we deal with that. And then they're going to deal with it, how we deal with it. Yeah. So, it was very, very, very interesting. But I definitely got a ton out of those 12 years at UPS. It just continued to shape who I was as a leader. Like I came up with a real strict father, on a small farm where, work is secondhand there. And, you get things done, you show up early. If I shake your hand, it's going to be done. If I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there 15 minutes early. It's those type of things that are inbred in me, because of my raising probably. Then UPS continued to shake it. And then, sports, like you said, it's a huge part of who I am. We don't look like a lot these days, but those years definitely shaped me as an athlete.
Yeah. I going back to like figuring things out, and some things you're right. You can't they can't be figured out, but you can figure out how to respond to them. And my mom, she used to preach to us because like my dad wasn't around. He left the scene when I was 8 or 10 years old, and I had 2 younger siblings. But she always used to tell us, and I have it in my house as big as you can get it on my wall with, around some family pictures and stuff. But it says, what she used to tell us is, you can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And I love that mindset of, even in the most difficult of situations, like the loss of a loved one or anything like that, that's like, I'm not fixing that. I'm not going to bring somebody back. But I can set an example for everybody else around me, and I can mourn on my own terms and my own time, but I've got to set the example as a leader, and I'm just using death as like the ultimate, challenge. It is a challenge. I've got to set the culture and the motto of, okay, here's what we got. I don't like it. It sucks. Well, let's go. We got to get through this and move on. So yeah, I love that mindset, and obviously you lead that way. You have a big team now that you lead with that mindset. I want to transition to sports now, because I know, and you're very humble, so I'm going to make you pull some of this stuff out of you, but you are a very successful college basketball player. And obviously before that, high school and, in your early years, you had to be good to get to that level. When you were coming up, you talked about your father and your parents being pretty strict. Was sports something that came natural to you, or did you develop into a very good player? And I've got somewhere I'm going with this.
Okay. I think first and foremost, you got to have the love of the game and the passion as a child. So you can't force that into somebody, or they'll just probably quit on you later before high school even hits. Yeah. But I was very passionate about the sport. And I think it was inbred in me. My parents did not push it. If anything, they, there was so much to do around the house that probably the last thing that my dad wanted to do was haul us around. My brother was a golf pro. So he got very good at his sport, and I got real good at mine, because my dad told us to go pick one and get good at it. Because I'm not driving you around. But but my dad was a great athlete himself, and he's super humble. I hear stories from other people. I never heard it from him, but so I probably genetically got a little bit from him, and my brother did. So I think the I don't know, genetics is the right word, but definitely the passion. there was nothing else to do where I was raised. So being outside with a basketball in my hand was my refuge.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I asked that question is because obviously, I mean, you're elite level athletes, which you made it to an elite level and then did very well there. I mean, you're the leading scorer all time at College of Charleston. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's fantastic. I mean, like that is a big accomplishment. And we went to a game with you there last year, I believe it was, Bill and I, and you are the queen there. Like you walked in and everybody knew who you were, and you gave us the VIP treatment when we were there. But I say all that to say, I mean, you obviously you had some gifts that you were born with. I mean, not everybody's born with the coordination and the speed. Like those are things that you either have or you don't. Then you can develop it to another level if you work hard and you're passionate about it. But you came from an upbringing of, and I love what your father did with y'all. Is like, pick one, because I'm not hauling y'all everywhere, because
Yep.
a lot of kids also get burned out by playing all sports all the time, year round, and that's all they do. But you're a great example of you were born with these gifts, but you came up understanding at an early age what hard work looks like, right? And you could take that mentality and that teaching from your father and your parents and the farm you were raised on, and that transitioned over to the basketball court. You knew that to get the results that you needed to get or that you wanted to get, it didn't just happen because of what you were born with from a gift standpoint. You had to work for it. So I would imagine, and I'd be curious to get your take on it, your leadership skills by working hard, setting the example, made you even more successful than you probably would have been had you not had that childhood of working hard on a farm and things like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, I mean, my body was not, like a big deal, a prodigy or whatever you want to call it. Like it was not. I'm 5'10". I was probably 5'10" then. I probably weigh what I weigh now. Hands are little. Definitely don't have a big vertical. But I could, and I used to say this, and I still, it sounds kind of cocky, but I'll just say it. I can outwork anybody. And I mean that in a positive way, because I think I led that way on the court, because then if you trying to play with me, you got to play at that same level, or I'm probably going to, push and push and push and push and push you, because I had, my expectations were super high for hard work. And it came from, the way I was raised, from, being out in the field, and you just have lines and lines of like field to pick, and you just stay out there all day until it's done. I mean, if it gets dark and we're not finished, he brings lights in. That's you can't, you that was built inside of me. So I say that honestly, that especially in my prime, physically, you couldn't outwork me, because I can just stay at something all day long, all night long, until it gets done. Physically. So that hard work carried me a lot further than my body and my physique. And so, because there's been a lot of people in between me, gosh, I've been gone now. I don't even want to tell my age, but like 40 years since I've been out of high school. We have our 40th reunion this year. 40 years out of high school. And I'm still carrying the most points scored, and my jersey hangs in the rafters, and nobody's else has come on behind me. People need to get to it, right? So when I go down there and speak, I'm like, guys, come on. It's look at me and look at you. We'll go back to reps. Put in the reps. Put in the hard work. Put in those shots, because then it comes very subconscious when you have that ball becomes a part of who you are. Even today, when I was down we have a new little goal down here by the water now. And it's really weird how that ball becomes part of you again, because subconsciously that's all you've done for so long, for all those years. It's just amazing. But you gotta love it to be out there in the cold and the rain. you just got to love it. You just couldn't have run me off the court. And that was just me. Not everybody's like that. And then, like I said, I like the fact of you being a father, and he couldn't have pushed me any further than I already wanted to be pushed. And he was not one to be out there like shooting and, tying my arm behind my back to make sure that I'm tying my own arm behind my back to make sure I could use my left hand good. He just supported, and, well, both of them did. I mean, my parents and grandparents, everybody was super supportive. So I had a ton of support around me, but he led by example. So then I didn't know any better except to work that hard because everybody around me was working that hard. So now I lead that way, but just out of default, because of, I think our raising and our childhood is what starts all this. And y'all as parents, unfortunately, I never had children, but you as parents, they're watching you. They're watching you, what you're doing every day, and they're just going to mimic you.
It's the biggest motivator in my life every day. Now I can preach to my kids how they should behave, how they should act in this world, how they should treat people, how they should stay healthy. I can preach that to them, and that's fine. A lot of parents do that. I'd rather show them because I'm their hero. My wife and I are their two heroes, and what do kids want to do? They want to be just like their heroes. And if they hear me, like if my son and daughter hear me, oh, you got to stay active, don't eat all that junk food, and get outside and play around. But I'm saying all that while I'm eating ice cream in the recliner. That's who they're going to turn into. I've got to model that hard work and that discipline. And I also, like, maybe they'll have kids one day, and I've got to model how to be a good dad, like be present with them and stuff like that. But that goes beyond children. You go talk about leadership, like I'm leading my family, but we're in the early stages of business. We're just starting to hire people and things like that. But where you're at, everybody looks to you as the leader of this organization, Rehab Wallet, right? So they expect you to, or, you hope they expect this out of their leader, but to live what they are preaching, which is hard work, which is showing up. And you might not be in the office every day in the weeds of day-to-day administrative type stuff in the business because you've built a team that you can delegate those things to, but they know and trust that you're out here still grinding just like they are. That's what leaders do. And I know that's why, I made some notes here. Y'all kicked off in 2020 with Rehab Wallet. So we're 5 years into it.
5 years this month.
Do you mind sharing a couple numbers that kind of will give some perspective around that growth in 5 years?
We've raised about $160 million in the last 5 years. That in itself, I can't even fathom it sometimes. So we just spit out these numbers sometimes of millions and hundreds. And I have to really sit back sometimes and be like, guys, that's hundreds of millions. And then we've put out $440 million on the street in the last 5 years. It's in the lending world, go back to that lending world that I was talking about. Am I a true lender, or am I an entrepreneur that owns a lending company? In the lending space, that's not huge. It just isn't. If you're talking about our competitors, the Lima Ones, the Kiavis, that's like a drop in the bucket. It's nothing compared to them. But for us, we're super proud of it. For the size of our company and the growth that we've had in 5 years we didn't know. I'd never done this before. We just managing people, doing it the way that we thought we could do it. None of us had any corporate experience in this lending world. We're just building a culture, and our employees just take it from there. Just like what we've shown y'all how to do. We just started with a private lending bucket of money in 2018 and took that and refined it. And then worked real hard. Let's not complicate any of this. I hate it when we just complicate this as leaders, whether it's lending, a white collar world, or blue collar world and the service industry, who cares? Just manage the same way, create your organizational chart. And that's what I took from corporate America. I took a lot of those, not just leadership ability, but also understanding a P&L and going over your P&L, watching your numbers, all that kind of stuff. We have to continue to absorb and work toward every single day and utilize that.
Yeah. And you said that, I mean, those are, for most folks listening, those are big numbers. Those are very big numbers. Now, relative to the big dogs that, you know, like you mentioned earlier, maybe not so much, but there's a big difference in what you've built and what we are building. It started from scratch. It literally started from scratch. And, you know, that is, and it's stayed, like, you guys, as big as y'all have gotten, you still operate with a small business mentality. Now, y'all have a very, like, the way your structure and your corporate structure is and everything like that, it is like a big corporate model, but you have that small business mentality where y'all go out and earn it every day. And I've interacted with most everybody on your team, and this is the best reflection of you as a leader, and your other leaders on your team. Everybody on your team that I've interacted with, they're not just employees. Like, they feel like they own this company, and they feel like they have ownership with all those big numbers you throw out. They're a part of it, and that's how they show up, and they're tied and married to it. And that is a reflection of you as a leader. I'd love for you to talk about some strategies or some core principles you've implemented that has built that culture.
Well, I think that that leaders create the culture. I told you that. And the cultures create the behaviors in our people, and the behaviors is what gets us results. That's the lineage of leadership. Leadership, average leaders create average cultures, and then average cultures create average behaviors, and average behaviors gets us average results. Now, my job is just to create the culture. Now, we have to recruit people that believe in that same culture. Like, let's say that a person is kind of kind of creative and kind of lax and just believes in, 4-hour work week and those kind of things, right? That person wouldn't make it through our first or second interview, because we would have already weeded them out, and our interview process would have completely made them it's too strict, it's too many guidelines, it's too hierarchical, it's too so it's too military-ish. So I wouldn't even be able to recruit them. So the ability to recruit people will follow your culture. And so in your interview process, you have to explain to them through, maybe we actually do an interview, like a particular job interview. In the interview, they're doing a job or a task, so that we can see if they're a good match for us. So the culture has to match the employees. And then once we got the employees in, we build and completely push that culture throughout it. And our culture is really defined. It goes back to everything that I said at the beginning: hard work. If you're going to be on time, be 15 minutes early. All those specifics of that culture just takes it along. Now, we have to manage firm but fair, meaning we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to have fun doing it. But there's a fine line, but actually it's not even fine. It is a strong line between me and the front line now. And I want it like that. They're not scared of me. Every one of them could call me today, and I would drive wherever they're at, and they know that. I just think that the culture, which is the personality of the business, matches the personality of the leader, and they feel that way. And then they watch, and then they're going to see if my walk is as strong as my talk, and then you got to do that year after year after year. You almost can't mess up. Now, that doesn't mean I can't be vulnerable, that I can't be upset or cry or that doesn't mean I have to be this immortal person. That doesn't mean. But this confidence, the security behind them, I feel that they need to see that. Talk about, burn the boats. Maybe it's the last person jumping off the boat. They're going to get off before I get off. Even though they're going to tell me to jump off first to protect me. And I know that about them, but they also know that I'm going to be there to protect them. I mean, we just as small as like the other day that we had our team day, and we had done little bitty shirts for all the women that's got little kids. And two of them cried about it. Like, this is the cutest thing. We love that y'all even know my child's name, that y'all even bring a little shirt. We just surprised them, a little Rehab Wallet, little bitty, shirts. We had them a onesie when they came out. Just the little things I think that we forget to do while we're trying to get rich.
Yep.
I don't know. I just think you got to do unto others as you have them do unto you, period. And just
the golden rule, and it's unfortunately it's not as common as it should be.
It's not
in leadership and business. And you see a lot of you could see a lot of, from a number standpoint, successful companies, successful leaders, but the culture is absolute horrible because the leader allowed it to get that way. So one way or another, either they didn't pay enough attention to the detail of when everything's building out. If they have like middle management structure, they didn't, lead those middle managers to, to keep, I guess, just reaffirming the culture, and this is how we're doing things. And you see a lot of it get lost as companies get larger.
No doubt.
You guys have had incredible growth over 5 years, but that culture hasn't gone anywhere. It's right.
It's very, very intentional. We work hard at it. At the same time, like you said, when we started, it was just like you and Bill. That was me and Ange when we first got started, and my partners were raising money.
Yeah.
And then we had another person named Harris Jones that was the detailed piece of it. Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to Ange too. I have a top line COO. I hate labels, but that's what we have to call her, because I call her Chief Everything Officer. She's just like everything. And she takes the culture of which I wouldn't have been able to recruit her had I not had this culture, because she's in a box and she likes to be on time and she likes the directness and she likes chain of command. She likes all those things. So I recruit. So even though we're really good old friends, she also likes to have a lot of fun. I kind of get, in a zone sometimes. And then she stops and reminds me, just vicariously through the team, to stop and have fun and, be cheesy every once in a while and corny is what she is. And I was asked.
And celebrate, right?
And celebrate the wins, because, I'm a driver. And so my first person that works directly between me and that front line needs to bring the same culture and have the same culture, but be different in personalities. I mean, we couldn't be more different in personalities, but we are the exact same core values and culture inside of our wiring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Bill and I. You've spent enough time with us. We're different human beings. We operate different. I get excited about things that he doesn't. Vice versa. I'm good at things that he's not. Vice versa. But at the end of the day, we love each other with all of our hearts, and we have those values, and that makes the difficulties in growing this business not so difficult, because we're aligned. And even the things we disagree on, we get through them very quickly and on to the next thing, right?
And it just spews off y'all. It is very obvious that that's how y'all feel about each other, and that y'all's core values align. And like you said, let's not be afraid to be different, even though some things drive Ange probably crazy, as Bill probably says the same thing about you. Like,
oh yeah, sure.
Drives you crazy. And same thing about me, but I don't want to change anything about her, as you don't want to change anything about Bill. We just want to stay aligned and build this culture and have fun. Sometimes we forget to have fun during this time, because this is just a journey.
Yep.
Once again, nothing's not fixable, and this journey will come and go.
Well, I'll tell you,
You just have time. I mean, have fun doing it.
the reason I brought up celebrate because I mean this is something me and Bill are having to remind ourselves quite a bit. But like we in December of last year, um, and this will put into perspective just how big y'all have grown over the last 5 years when I share my numbers. But when in December we set a goal that we thought it was no way it was going to happen, but we wanted to get uncomfortable with the goal. And that goal was for 2025 to lend out 20 million in loans. That was our target. We wanted to do 20 million in loan volume. We did 7 last year. So it was a really big stretch goal. Well, here we are 6 months into it. We'll hit that in the next 2 months. And we have not, I mean, it's already lined up. We'll hit that. And now instead of really celebrating the fact that we're going to surpass that goal, we probably, if I didn't catch myself, we probably would have hit that goal and never thought twice about it. We've already set a new goal for the year, and that's good. But if we can't get into the mindset of, yes, we got to keep stretching the goal and going after it, but we've got to celebrate when we hit these milestones. 20 million in a year, that's a huge milestone from where we were last year. And we were almost to a point where, all right, what's the next goal? We're going to hit that. Let's move on. Instead of taking time to reflect, like, man, we're doing this. We're doing it right. And that I wanted to make that point because it's hard especially for me. I'm such a just go, go, go mentality. It's hard for me to sit back sometimes and say, yeah, we did pretty good here.
No doubt. And I'm so, number one, I'm so proud of y'all. Number two, I'm so happy for y'all. Because nobody deserves it more than y'all. I mean, you've put in the work, you've put in, and you wanted it, right? It's kind of like going back to that basketball stuff. It's y'all got a ton of passion toward this, and whether y'all take both families out and just celebrate over a cookout, but we're celebrating this stuff, and those kids are seeing y'all celebrating it, and then y'all are proud of it in front of your wives and your kids. I think that's well deserved, and because as leaders, we don't have that, person behind us patting us on the back like, well done, you good and faithful servant. There's nobody. So you have to figure it out within yourself. And I know your wives and your kids are super proud of y'all, because those numbers mean, distributions, and those distributions means vacations. Those distributions in the lifestyle. Yeah. And so that's where it all comes from. It's not about the money. It's what that money brings to that family, both those families of y'all's. But I'm so glad you're seeing that, because I probably didn't teach that enough during that, because that's one of my issues that I have, is that I keep moving the goalpost, and it's just who I am. Yeah. I've learned to be okay with. I've read the book Relentless by Tim Grover, who was MJ's trainer, if you will.
Love it. Yep.
And it just kind of gave me that it's okay to keep. That's just who I am. But I'm proud of myself. I told somebody the other day. Somebody said, asking me about that. Do you ever stop? I do stop. I'm proud of where we're at. I'm actually super proud of where we're at, and that pride comes internally, and we just have to have that internally. We can't need somebody else patting us, because there ain't nobody over there patting us.
Nope. Yeah,
so it's ain't needed
for sure. And I don't think, like, when people talk about retirement, like, that doesn't compute with me. Like, I may slow down when I get into my 60s, 70s, or whatever, but I don't know. I hope I still have this energy, but I don't think I'm going to be fully satisfied at any point in my life if I don't have something else to go for, right? And now it may change. I might, years from now, it might be more legacy building and trying to help as many people as I can in different ways, which still requires running successful businesses to have the income to do those things. But it may change, but I cannot envision. I can envision a couple weeks hanging out at the beach, but not the rest of my life just sitting around drinking, mixed drinks on the beach all day. No. That's not my mentality. I don't think you're wired that way either.
No, I think it'll put you in the grave sooner, and I know for sure it'd put me in the grave sooner. That sounds actually awful to me. Or sit on the beach for 2 weeks or whatever, or for my rest of my life. Yeah. And some people just don't feel that way, and that's okay. I just think we just got to know internally what we want. It'll change. The amount of work or the push changes a little bit, I think, as we get a little older.
Yep.
To stop and have some fun and go on vacations and go and enjoy this and this amazing journey that we've worked really hard to provide.
Right. I got 2 more questions I want to ask Kelli before we start wrapping up. One is, you've coached a lot of people, so you have like a formal coaching platform that a little bit different than what we did with you, but you do individual like business and real estate coaching, and I know a lot of folks that have benefited from your coaching. What is and you know, you don't have to name names or anything like that. I just want you to speak to some of the common denominators you see with folks that you coach that go on to find success and sustain success. Are there a few common traits you see in folks during that part? Because you've coached so many.
Yeah. And I want to say this before, people still think I coach. I stopped in 2024. 2024, that was my first year of stopping. It just, I think I'd done my time. I'd done it for a long time and helped a lot of people.
Did we burn you out?
No, y'all were after that. The lending coaching world kind of came up, and again, it's no formal thing. It's no formal thing. There, after you came about 3 other groups.
Yeah.
That's not something we will continue on. That's not something. It was just something I felt like that we wanted to do. Again, when I feel convicted about something, I go ahead and do it. And put it out there and see. I don't know if it'll stick, but see if it can help somebody, because it's not enough money comparatively speaking to what we make over here. It's a drop in the bucket. So I feel like I have done my part as far as the coaching world goes. Now, the common denominator is this: I don't even want to say do what I tell you to do, but the little things I don't ask that a lot of people do a lot of things, but the majority of the ones that will know their numbers, and that sounds so broad, but I mean, knowing what their revenue is minus expenses equals the bottom line. There are just so few people that they just want they must love the grind or the game and forget to watch and see their numbers and their expenses. And it's not watching just their expenses, but it's also watching the top line. So number 1 is to know in the numbers, and all that means is to audit, see where you're at on a monthly basis. Okay? The next one would be knowing your goals, knowing what you want to work backwards from. And you can teach that and preach that all day long. And some people never spend the time to know what they want. Like that $20 million for you came from somewhere. That came from you and Bill sitting down, working backwards, of which we all showed you how to do. Work backwards and figure out how many loans that is per month and how much capital that needs to be raising in. And see how easy that sounds? And so few people want to do that and spend the work to do that. And then last but not least, I think it's just continue to work on yourself on a daily, weekly basis. I tell everybody and teach everybody to write their goals down on every morning. And maybe it's not the writing it down that you have to do, but you have to know where we're headed. If you want to score 20 points a game, then that means you got to score 10 the first half and 10 the second half, or all in the second half. However you want to score them, it don't matter. But you got to know what you're after. You just, if y'all want to do 20 million in loans, you know that you're capable. Because if you just threw a number out and said 100 million, you don't have the team to do 100 million. You would fail. Right? You just don't have. All y'all would have, you and Bill would be a job for 18-hour days, because you'd have to be processing, raising capital, all that stuff, right?
I'm gonna give you a very real example that you helped us through. It was very early on. You had us like, all right, next week's call, guys, I want you to be very specific with your goals and like how much capital, how much in loans. And I think at that time we had raised maybe $1 million. Like it was, we just had a little bit of money. And I threw a number out there. I said, I want to be at 10 million by this date. And it was like in 6 months. And you said, nope, that's not good enough. Not the goal. You said, I want to know not just what the goal is, but back into it, exactly what you just said, and tell me how you're going to do it. Tell me the daily, monthly task that y'all are going to do to get to that point. And I think we never talked about this, but I think what you were doing, because this is what I realized when I backed into it, that was too high of a goal at that point. Like I had set the goal, because that meant I had to raise, like at that time, let's call it 1.5 million every month for 6 months. Well, that wasn't realistic. We were barely just raising money at that point. But 10 million to me, looking at it broadly, was like, okay, well, I can do that. I can go find $10 million. Well, no, it didn't work out that way. But you made me go through that exercise, and you challenged me. It wasn't like, heck yeah, Jason, go get it. Go work your butt off. It was like, I hear you, but now I want to hear how you're going to do it. And you made me go through that process of realizing, like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a tough challenge. So let's dial that back a little bit, and be a little more realistic with it. And I love that piece of it, because a lot of people just stop by naming the goal and they don't go backwards and figure out how they're going to get there.
So
I love that. Yeah.
So attainable. A lot of people want to say the word obtainable, and I wasn't pulling you back for the fact that I was pulling you back enough that was still a push for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want it to be too easy. Like y'all set this goal of 20 million, you're blasting through it. It's too easy. Next year you'll realign your goals and be like, okay, we're able to blow through 20.
Yep.
By June. So, and that's going to take X amount of loans and then X amount of money to do that. So, what I want to say is that, honestly, it's not complicated. You just have to be willing and passionate to go and do these few things. And to me, it's so simple and common sense that you would set a goal and work backwards, or write your goals, or just look at your P&L. Or if your P&L doesn't come to the 20th of the month from your bookkeeper, then do another spreadsheet. Separate, something to be able to know where you're at compared to where you want to go. And to me, regardless of the widget, regardless if it's lending, if it's a landscaping business, if it's a pressure washing business, it's the same methods over and over and over again. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's sad. I got nothing to add there. I love it. I want to talk about, kind of end with this, because I think it's fair to say right now, you could probably just sell your interest in everything, and you and Sunshine just sail into the sunset and be good forever, right? From a financial standpoint, probably safe to say. You've done an incredible job. I love how you highlighted the fact that you tried this is your 8th business that you tried, until you finally hit the one that really changed life for you. And that's you're in the middle of that right now. But knowing that you've gotten to this place and you could technically sail off into the sunset, what drives you now? What keeps you going? Because I know y'all still have very big goals. What is it that keeps Kelli Garrett waking up every morning and driving hard the way you do?
Again, very broad, but I still hadn't reached the best version of Kelli yet. And that, I think that's what I'm after, is just reaching to be the best version. I knew early on, and when I say best version, the only way I can calculate that is, I guess, through numbers. Like, let's go back to basketball for a minute. If I'd scored 12 a game, that's not my best version. But I'm not going to set my goals to do 35 a game, because I can't. That's over Kelli's best version, right? I'm about a 25 pointer a game. Okay. All right. So let's put this into business. The same thing goes, is that those first 8 businesses, even though my real estate put us way ahead, okay, buying real estate, and I could have probably stopped in 2018. Just believe me when Sunshine sat me down and really wanted us to do that. 2018, let's not start another one. Let's not do another one. It's fine. We would have been just fine at 2018. Just stopped and move on and just live the sunset. But I had not reached my best version of Kelli. The businesses to me were too small. I think the biggest business we had done was a top line of about 8 million. And one in a few of those businesses. So we hadn't crossed over the $10 million line. And I don't know. I just did not feel like I had reached my potential yet. And I still don't. I think I'm getting close. And the reason I say that is because I don't want to build this business and it get over me. Okay. I'll know when it's time for me to step aside and bring another CEO in and run it. Maybe a true lender come in, a CEO, and run it from there. Because again, I'm just making this stuff up as I go. I don't know about the REO division of a bank. I don't, or that's kind of what we are at this point. Or compliance. Am I doing all the compliance parts? I don't know. I think I am. After 5 years, but I'll know my best version. I have to just say, I just had not reached my potential of best version yet. I'm getting super close, and I think I want to believe that I'm going to know when it's time to bring somebody else in to do that.
Well, I have to kind of end with this. One version of you is the impact you're having, and I don't know how much you measure that or how much, that's a tough thing to measure is, but your tentacles that have come out of everything that you are. So, and a lot of that goes back to the coaching that you did. And we're prime examples of that, but with that, and I mean this, without you agreeing to help us out early on, and you still do. I want to be very clear with this. Kelli and I hop on a phone call or Zoom with Bill and I probably once every other month or so just to help us work through some whatever we're working through. And Angela and other people on your team have helped us. They continue to do so. But let's fast forward us 5 years. And let's say we're at that point, we've raised just $50 million, whatever it is. That's because of you. And that's one tentacle of Kelli Garrett and her kindness and generosity and all that stuff. And then let's say I get to a point, because my biggest passion is coaching. I love coaching. It's my absolute favorite thing to do is leading and coaching. I absolutely love it. So I can envision 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, this thing's running. I can kind of step away and teach other people how to do it. And let's say we are able to help 5 or 10 more 608Bs start. And now they grow to 100 million. And then they teach some people. That all starts with Kelli Garrett. And I don't know where it started with you, but that impact is something. You want to talk about legacy? I got goosebumps. I don't know if you can see it, but that's where it's at. And that is why I love talking to you. I love being around you. And I'll scream it until the day I can't scream it anymore. You are the reason we're having any bit of success, and you've changed my family's lives, Bill's family's lives, and it's been very powerful, and I'll thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I do. I've done my job. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So
done my job.
That's your legacy, and if you ever get to a point where you've made it and you've done all you can do, that's where you can continue doing is just, and I got to make this point too, and we'll wrap up after this, but
you better, because I'm gonna start crying if you don't.
I know, but it's like you didn't coach us or consult us for free. Like it was an agreement. It was a business transaction, but I don't share how much we paid for that. That's nobody's business, but it's a lot of money for us starting out. But one thing, you didn't need that money. You didn't have to charge us. That did not change your bottom line one bit. No. You did it because you knew, and most good coaches know this, if somebody pays for it, they're going to pay attention to it.
That's right.
And you want to make it, part of that hard work is writing the check, is seeing it go out of your account, because you know that you better go earn it, because now you're paying, you better go get a return on it. And you applied that pressure by charging us a substantial amount of money, which was fair. And we've gotten 10x, return on that investment. But I think a lot of people kind of scoff at these coaches and these programs saying, oh, they're 20 grand a year, whatever it is. I'll never pay that. I can figure it out on YouTube. No, you can't. Pay the money. And do you have any thoughts on that as we wrap up?
Yeah, I definitely put a lot of thought into because y'all were our first one, and we were making this up with y'all. I mean, we had done a 2-day intensive about 3 times, so we had a PowerPoint to work off of. But when you called and asked, I was like, again, if once things come to me, I feel like, and ask a bunch, then I feel like something's there, and whether it is a financial there or whether it's time to give a little bit. That's what I know. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this. If I get multiple phone calls about something, so, but I'm not just gonna give it away. I think I would have been teaching y'all something not correctly to just be just give so much of your time, because I didn't have the time to give. Right? I'm running a business. Yep. But financially, I think to make you pay for my time, I'm teaching you how to represent yourself better. Yeah. I think that I deserve that, and there's no value on that time, whether it was 1 hour a week or whatever it was at the time, every 2 weeks, I don't remember. But it was like, I'm teaching you to also value your time, and then you're going to do the same to somebody else. Yep. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah, I take your phone calls now, and because we're friends, as people take my phone calls now, and I don't put you on a clock every single time. That's not what we're after at this point. But I think it's very important, because you're right. It makes you pay more attention. And again, I'm showing you that my time is valuable.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And it probably made you pay more attention as a coach, because you know that Jason and Bill are paying for this thing. So I've got to show up. I've got to deliver. So it works both ways. And I just wanted to make that point, because a lot of people listening here are, they're spinning wheels in various business ventures and stuff like that, and making some progress.
No doubt.
But a lot of times the lever they're missing.
Listen, you're going to slow play it. You're going to slow play it that way. If you're going to YouTube yourself to death to learn, you're going to slow play it. And again, if I wouldn't be teaching you guys something and teaching myself something, because I slow played for a long time to get where I'm at. If there's anything that I did wrong, it was staying in something for so long, without the high potential of return. And so I want you guys and everybody else to know that that'll just slow play it. You're going to mess up, and then it's going to put you back 2 or 3 years to make it back even. Hire a coach, hire somebody that truthfully cares, hire somebody that cares about you, and is going to pay attention to you. Yep.
Well, Kelli, I can't thank you enough. I love you to death. You're again, one of the most influential people in my life, and I'll be forever in debt to you for that. And I thank you enough. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate you joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple days. And
absolutely.
Napa Valley, we're going to have a good time there. We both get to be on stage, so that'll be fun. Yep. But Kelli, again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining me on Burning the Ships, and thank you for having more impact than you'll ever know with what we have going on, and what the years to come, what's going to go beyond that. So.
Thank you so much, Jason. I'll see you in a couple of days.
Bye-bye. All right, Kelli.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Burning the Ships. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, 608B Capital, helping real estate investors secure fast, reliable funding to fuel their boldest moves. If you're ready to take your investing to the next level, visit 608bcapital.com to learn more. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps us reach more people who are ready to burn the ships and commit fully to their goals. And don't forget to share the episode with someone who needs that extra push to take bold action. I'll leave you with this. Burning the ships isn't just about removing the option to retreat. It's about unlocking the courage to charge forward. No matter the odds, the past is behind you and the future is yours to conquer. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Burning the Ships.